I installed a mod that forces me to only have one heart in Terraria, which essentially makes the game no hit, because any damage I take will instantly kill me. Now I've done this before, but last time my goal was to kill the Eye of Cthulhu, which was a lot easier than I expected. This time my goal is to get into hard mode, which shouldn't be too hard, right? Yeah, well, to actually get into hard mode, I'm going to have to beat the Wall of Flesh, and right now I've just beaten Eye of Cthulhu, so we're nowhere near as powerful enough to even take on the Wall of Flesh, so I'm going to have to do some gearing up. But to be honest, there isn't really much gearing I can do, because I've already broken a Shadow Orb to actually get a musket, which is going to be pretty decent to fight the Eater of Worlds. Also, I thought, you see, the Eater of Worlds is made up of multiple segments, and the musket will only really damage one segment, so it wasn't really very effective, and most of my other gearing up was just taking the demonite that I got from Cthulhu and crafting a sword and a better bow. But to be perfectly honest, I didn't beat Cthulhu. I tried many times. I just wasn't powerful enough to defeat Cthulhu, and all I was able to do was just kill off a decent amount of segments to get enough scales and enough demonite to make demonite armor, because even though defense is useless, the demonite armor's bonus stats are actually quite useful. And so therefore, I actually didn't beat Cthulhu, just got enough demonite scales to actually make the armor, and then moved straight on to Skeletron. Now Skeletron is where I started to get really annoyed, because first of all, you have to actually get to the dungeon. And getting to the dungeon was really hard because I kept dying, mostly because the dungeon is on the side of the world, which is just mostly full of corruption, and there's those little thorn spiky bush things that instantly kill you, but also can be really tiny, which I would sometimes accidentally fall into. Sometimes I get swarmed by the Eater of Souls. It just got so annoying to the point where I ended up actually having to make a house in between the spawn and the dungeon so that I could actually make progress of getting to the dungeon. And then at the dungeon I had to make another house. But not only that, I also didn't do really any preparation for Skeletron. No, I just sat and I was like, oh, I have a musket, and you get a musket by breaking Shadow Orbs, which is technically where you get the drops from the Eater of Worlds, and you know, a musket's pretty good. I don't exactly need any other guns or anything, so you know, I'm just fighting with the musket. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea, but I decided to fight Skeletron with a musket, and well, the second I spawned him, I instantly died. Okay, so Skeletron basically spawns on top of you when you spawn him the normal way, and that basically means you die pretty much instantly. But also, you can only spawn him once per night, so I am kind of screwed because it's going to take multiple attempts. But fortunately for me, I did in fact install a mod previously in my last video, which basically made all boss summons non-consumable. However, that does not apply to the old man. He doesn't just instantly respawn after Skeletron kills you. So even with the mod, I'd still have to wait until the next night, which would take ages, although the mod does in fact include a crafting recipe to craft a item which actually spawns in Skeletron. And the crafting recipe for this item requires either, I think, 10 bones or a Clothier voodoo doll. Okay, right. If you don't know, both of those items are found in the dungeon. And how do you get in the dungeon? You beat Skeletron. So in order to actually get summon an item to spawn in Skeletron, I'd actually have to beat Skeletron. Now, I actually tried a few attempts of maybe like trying to get into the dungeon, survive the dungeon guarding long enough to actually get enough bones, but it wasn't working, and so the only real option I had was to just give myself the crafting item, which is what I ended up doing. Anyway, fighting Skeletron himself was actually really hard. I mean, while I did diss the musket earlier, it actually was a really good weapon for using against the Skeletron, just not the Eater of Worlds. But the weapon I'm using wasn't the issue with Skeletron. The issue was being unable to actually dodge him. I just wouldn't be able to jump high enough, and also wouldn't be able to actually fall low enough. As well as the fact that I died so many times, I ended up creating a graveyard which gives that screen that weird grey effect, which actually made it so much harder for some reason to actually see where Skeletron is. As well as the fact that there was just so many other enemies just kept spawning and killing me because I'm focusing on Skeletron and I'm not seeing the fact that there's this little eye creeping up on me and instantly killing me, to the point where I got so annoyed, and so many deaths later where I just whipped out cheat sheet mod again and gave myself a bunch of peace candles, went a bit crazy and put them everywhere, and a bunch of sunflowers, and deleted all the gravestones, as well as the fact that I also found an enchanted sword. I got really lucky. I decided to mine down there this area for dirt, and then I ended up finding an enchanted sword, and I was like, whoa. But anyway, despite all of that, I then decided to fight Skeletron again, and well, the enchanted sword wasn't better than the musket, and well, I just kept dying again, because here's the thing, the problem isn't the fact that those enemies keep showing up and the screen being grey, it's the fact that I just can't dodge Skeletron, because I don't have rocket boots. I need rocket boots because even though I have Cloud in a bottle, I just can't jump out the way when he throws his hand at me. Which is when I learned some very disappointing news. To get goblin boots, you must buy them from the Goblin Tinkerer. I know that. To get the Goblin Tinkerer to spawn, you must defeat a Goblin Army. I know that. How do you get Goblin Army to spawn? Well, according to the wiki, you need at least 200 health before a Goblin Army can spawn. This is a 1 heart playthrough. I do not have 200 health. I have 1 health, and I will always have 1 health. So Goblin Armies can't spawn. But I was at the time to give up, so I tried everything I possibly could to spawn in a Goblin Army, and it just wasn't happening to the point where I ended up accidentally spawning in the Goblin Tinkerer himself. So I just bought the Goblin Boots. And now I have the Goblin Boots, and, well, I went to go fight Scaretron, and what do you know, with the Goblin Boots, I was able to dodge out of the way and actually managed to defeat Scaretron pretty quickly. Okay, with Scaretron defeated, I can access the dungeon, which is good because now I can start preparing for the Wall of Flesh fight. Because the dungeon will allow me to access Golden Chest, which contains the Shadow Key, which will allow me to access the Shadow Chest in Hell, as well as get the handgun, and then get the Phoenix Blaster, which is all going to be good for fighting the Wall of Flesh. But after a lot of preparation, I was finally ready to take on the Wall of Flesh, where I died pretty much quickly. And I kept dying pretty quickly to those lasers. See, the lasers on the Wall of Flesh move really fast. Not only that, but they get faster as well, and they actually can be somewhat hard to dodge. And this was the point where I sat there and thought, damn, I might not be able to do this. However, eventually I actually managed to come up with a plan. You see, whilst fighting the Wall of Flesh, I noticed something, and that something being that the lasers can't go through blocks, which is important because utilizing that mechanic, if I build a sort of tunnel above and below me out of blocks, those lasers should not be able to hit me. Yes, I won't be able to jump or dodge any other attacks, but the only other attacks he has are those like webby like slime things or falling into his mouth, and those little worm things which actually just go at you in a straight line, so I just have to aim for the worm. And so that was what I did. I built the little wall above and below me, to which it actually kind of worked until the Wall of Flesh started to go up, and then his eye was in level with my level and shot me and died. And that's when I realized, oh yeah, the terrain affects whereabouts his eyes and all that are positioned. So in order for me to actually fix that, I had to then make a top section and a bottom section of like terrain, smooth it all out so that the Wall of Flesh's eyes and level would stay there. And I managed to do that, and it managed to work somewhat perfectly, keeping the mouth there because the mouth doesn't actually attack you any sort of way. And I was able to shoot the mouth. Well, yes, the eyes take more damage. It still was much more safer this way, and I was surviving a lot longer. But I just wasn't able to do enough damage before he was able to kill me. Which is then when I realised that I was an absolute complete idiot because I had basically been using the wrong gear. I mean, the weapon, I was using the right weapon, but I was using tungsten bullets instead of meteorite bullets, so I switched to meteorite bullets, and I switched to necro armor. And the second I did that, I was doing so much more DPS and damage that I was able to actually kill him in pretty much one of the first attempts after I switched my gear. And now I'm in hard mode. I've done it, and oh no, I've got to do hard mode, and well, stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, and if you want to see more of this series, let me know. Bye bye.